name is Leironica. I work as well, actually I haven't started yet. I'm beginning a new career as a comic book artist. I live in New York. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, and I have Asperger syndrome. I was diagnosed at 28, and I had some problems getting along with my relatives because of my symptoms, and I ended up homeless. And I lived in a homeless shelter for people with physical disabilities, which was really difficult for me because my disorder is not physical, it's neurological. It's a brain disorder, but it doesn't have to do with anything with being smart or being dumb. That has nothing to do with it. It just means that most of us have trouble communicating with people. Sometimes we don't know what to say, we don't know how to say it. While I was at the shelter, I learned that there's different types of discrimination. My symptoms they caused a lot of problems sometimes. Not like my symptoms caused the problem, it's the way people reacted to the symptoms. For example, at the shelter, I stayed in a room with 3 other women who like to use scented body lotion, and I got sick all the time. And unfortunately, when I would say, hey, I'm sick, I can't breathe in here, and I would open the window, they would get very angry at me. They didn't take my symptoms seriously. They accused me of starting trouble. They accused me of trying to control other people. And it was very stressful for me that I couldn't do that simple thing, just open the window so I could breathe. So to get away from it all, to take a break from the stress, I would come here almost every day. I would come in here to go online because I wanted to learn more about my disorder. And I was also hoping to find some agencies that helped adults on the spectrum. People talk a lot about children with autism, but when it comes to adults, it's almost like we're just very underrepresented. That's what I learned. But fortunately, I discovered a great opportunity in this place. They were looking for artists, and art is my passion. I've been drawing since I was 4 years old. And I thought, this is a great place to educate people about Asperger's. Instead of just reading about it in a book, I could show them through pictures exactly what it's like. The name of my comic is called Asperger Syndrome, an Invisible Disability. And I gave it that title because Asperger's is not something that you notice right away. You know when someone's in a wheelchair, you know when somebody's blind, but when it comes to Asperger's, you can't always tell. There are 3 characters. This is Andrea. One of her issues is space. So that's why she's shoving this guy away, because she feels like he's standing too close to her, and that's making her really, really nervous. She's most like me. She's a woman trying to make her way in the city. She's trying to figure out who she is, where she fits in the world. She works at an art gallery, but she went through a lot of trouble to get to where she is. At the bottom left is Jeff. To represent different types of people on the spectrum. I didn't want it to be just all me. I can't do that anyway. So Jeff is a chef. He is one of those guys who come up in people's face and not realize that he's making them uncomfortable. And he also talks on and on and on, and he doesn't know when this conversation is supposed to end. But at the same time, Jeff is the most self-confident of my characters. He knows he has Asperger's. He doesn't apologize for who he is. This is Shane. Shane is in high school, and this is something that I do. I wave my fingers around, and it looks strange to his classmates, so they're laughing at him, they're calling him retarded. And I wanted to do it from a high school point of view because high school is hard. And it's even harder when you have Asperger's because there's so much pressure in high school to be social, to do the right things, wear the right clothes. When you see what the characters go through, it seems a little dramatic, but that is the reality. That's the reality. What Andrea goes through is what I went through. And it took a lot for me to reveal that, because at first I was ashamed. But I think to be a true artist, You have to put that shame aside. You have to take the risk. This one, I think, is extremely important because this has to do with Asperger's and the job market. I read somewhere a while back in a magazine that there was a study saying that when an interviewer interviews somebody for a job, if that person doesn't look that interviewer in the eye, they're less likely to get hired. So that's what Andrea goes through here, and I have that problem too with the eye contact. She tends to stare at people's lips and not her eyes because I can only do eye contact for a couple of seconds. I have trouble sustaining it. So I tend to just look at their mouth instead or what they're wearing. So, because if I look dead on, I get very nervous. And at the bottom left here, she describes her coping mechanisms, like what she does when she has those panic attacks. And this is stuff I've actually done. I tend to turn on water in the bathroom because the sound of the water is very soothing for me. And it also tends to block out the noise that makes me nervous. But here, this matters to me a lot because she focuses on what she can do. Like in that interview, she focuses on her strengths. She explains why she thinks she's good for that job. She doesn't pity herself. So here it is at the end. She manages some eye contact at the end. And they shake hands and the interview is over. People in Brazil, if you have Asperger's syndrome, I totally understand where you're coming from, even though I'm American. It doesn't matter where you're from. I understand how hard it could be. And my advice would be not to be so hard on yourself because other people might already be doing that. Don't beat yourself up about it. It's not your fault. Try to look at your strengths. That's what I would say. Look at the positive sides of yourself and focus on that. That's really important. My blog is called Asperger Armor, ARMOR, that aspergerarmor.wordpress.com. I just write about like my reaction to things from my point of view as a woman with Asperger's.